Hi, this is Mighty CS Man, and welcome back to CSC 142 Intro to Programming. This is a Java language course. This week, in week 4, we're going to be learning about graphics. Just as a brief refresher, 142 and 143 are University of Washington curriculum, taught at all the colleges. We use the book Building Java Programs by Stuart Regis and Marty Stepp, which is available online. You'll be seeing a snapshot of that later. And it's really important to use that book in order to follow this curriculum. And we also use their free website to do the work. So Chapter 3G is all about graphics. If you haven't already seen week 1, 2, and 3, please go back and take a look at those on my YouTube channel. So the authors of the book have created a new Java class called Drawing Panel, which lays on top of the Java graphics objects, and it just makes it a little bit easier to draw the graphics, as well as it allows practice it to test your graphics easier. And so we're going to be learning in the book this week about how to draw graphics and decompose a problem into different steps. The videos are pretty short. We just have the lecture on Chapter 3G, and then I've got a select number of practice it problems here that I ask my students to do. Really, the main week of the work for my students is I give them a homework problem that's based on the Chapter 3 Programming Project 6, Drawing a Calendar. And it's from Chapter 3 because the calendar is text-based, but I also encourage my students to draw a graphical version as well. Let me switch over to that for a second so I can show you what that project's about. So this is the Vital Source Bookshelf application. If you go back to my week 1, you'll see videos on how you can rent this Building Java Programs 4th edition for $35 for 6 months. But here is the programming problem that I have my students do, is to draw a calendar like this. And this is Chapter 3, is just doing it with text, and that is certainly challenging. I also encourage my students not to just draw a single month, but actually draw all the months of any year. And in order to do that, you need to look up the Java functions and how they deal with calendars to find out how many days are in a month, what day does the month start at. So those are some of the tricky parts. And they suggest using padded. I actually encourage my students to not only use padded, but also create a function to center strings. And I also ask my students to draw some graphics to go along with this, not just a text version, but actually draw it in graphics and draw some pretty pictures as well. So that's the kind of things that you would get if you were to take my course, but you can still do this problem at home and get some of that same experience. So next week we're actually going to be learning about conditional execution. A lot of people try to do the calendar program using if statements, and it is not necessary except for one small part. You really want to avoid using if statements until you really go through this chapter, because a lot of students don't know how to use them properly. You can do anything with an if statement, but it's critical to learn when you want to use an if statement. So come back next week and we'll cover conditional execution.